Do you ever wake up and wonder, who am I now? After years of being everything to everyone, a mom, a wife, career woman, it feels like somewhere along the way we can really get lost. If that sounds like you, stay with me because today we're going to talk about how to reconnect with yourself and how to find your identity outside of all those roles you've been playing for so long. We're going to dive deep into the question that so many women ask themselves during midlife. Who am I now that all of these things have changed? If you're feeling a little stuck or unsure of how to move forward, you're not alone. We're also going to explore why it's so hard to break free from past identities and how to reframe midlife transitions as a chance for growth. I'm also going to give you some of the exact steps you need to take to reconnect with your true self and start moving towards a life that feels authentic and fulfilling again. Let's start with, who am I now that those roles that I've always played for so many years have changed? Up until this point, our identity has been defined by what we do, not as who we are as humans. We've been parenting. Maybe you've been an executive, a PTA mom, a soccer mom. Maybe you've been a primary caregiver, a churchgoer. Whatever it is that you've been doing, these roles often define our self-worth and purpose, and they've done so for decades. It can be challenging when any of these things change or disappear and leave us feeling like we're a little lost or befuddled when any of these roles change. But if they've been stolen from us by trauma or other forces outside of our control, such as divorce, illness, financial problems, or job loss, it can really throw us for a loop. Let's take a look at why it's so hard to separate our identity from our life roles. You see, our brains, these wonderful things inside our head, are wired to connect our identity and who we are to things that are familiar. That includes to familiar roles. Plus, we often have different societal and family expectations that reinforce who we should be, what we should be doing, and up until now, that worked. Maybe. Sort of. At least most of it did for most of us. But then we hit this wonderful season of midlife, and there's no longer any rules. There are no large-scale models for what we're supposed to do once all of those things we've been doing are done. The interesting thing is, we've got that model for the first half of our life, but this transition hits at the middle, not the end. Most of us still have a lot of good years ahead of us, and it's now time to look at our core identity, or who we really are on the inside, versus our role identity and what we've been doing. Something I've also noticed is that many of us have never maybe even considered this before, especially as we were busy hitting all of life's milestones. We went to school, we met a prince, we got married, we had the white picket fence house, we had the 2.5 kids, and then all of those seasons were over. So how do we break free from feeling stuck in this phase of life when those things change? Well, that's a good news, bad news question. The bad news is that change always comes with loss, and loss comes with grief. So sometimes before we can move forward, we need to go through a grieving process to let go of what is no longer for us. That can come with a lot of big feelings. We can't bury them, we can't ignore them, because they will always find their way to the surface, and they often do so in less than stellar ways unless we're conscious of it. So the first step in breaking free is allowing that process to happen, even if it's not very fun. The good news is that you've got a blank canvas in front of you, and these transitions can provide a lot of freedom to explore different identities and different experiences. And it all gets to be about you now. It's not about everyone else or what they want or what they need. And I promise there are lots of women out there who have reinvented themselves in midlife by embracing new passions, dreams, hobbies, community involvement, and a lot of them have even gone back to school. It's really a matter of shifting from who you were and what you were doing to who you want to be and who you want to become. This is an ideal time of life to think about your future. Remember, there's no rule books here. It's really about looking at who do I really want to become in this next chapter, and what do I want it to look like? What would be fulfilling and feel authentic to me now? A good exercise is to write down a vision for your future self. Another fun thing to do is to look at your much younger self. What did you love? What were your dreams? What drew you to those things? And what did you love about it? By looking back at those things, oftentimes you'll find that many of those things are still there now because they're a part of who you really are. And now it's just a matter of figuring out how to bring those things into your life now. No, maybe training to be an astronaut in your 50s or 60s isn't realistic, but there's always a way to look at how you can bring those elements into your life now. What did you love about that dream? Was it a love of travel and exploration, a love of space, or a love of rockets and seeing things blow up as they take off? There are plenty of ways to make those things a part of your new life and your new dreams without being an actual astronaut. So the question is, what steps do I need to take to find myself again? One of the first things we need to do is embrace this as a season of new beginnings. It's not an ending. Well, it's an end of one phase of life, but it's not the end of your life. So take small steps to try new things or to explore new hobbies. Practice self-compassion. Give yourself permission to evolve as a human. This is also a great time of life to practice self-acceptance. The key to being able to do that is to embrace change. If you've hit some roadblocks, this might be the right time in your life to deal with some of those hard things you've experienced up until this point. And it's time to untangle all the emotional baggage that comes with it. As they say, it's time to clean out that old proverbial skeleton closet. It's also a great time in your life to consider your legacy. What do I want to be remembered for? What do I want my story to look like? What kind of an impact do I want to make in the world going forward? A fun way to start exploring this is to reframe your own life story and put you as the main character. It's not your kids, your spouse, your employer, church, or anything else that you were doing before. It's also not a time to bring the people who hurt you or made things hard for you or discredited you to get more power than they've already taken. To get started, you want to write one version of your story as you see it with all of those players in place in whatever capacity they held. And then write a second version of that same story with you as the only main character. Instead of my kids did this or they did this and then this happened to me, flip it to be, in my season of parenting, it was a joy to watch my child. And this is what my involvement was. Or, yeah, this thing happened. It was great. Or it was bad. This is how I felt about it. And this is how it is still affecting my life. As we wrap this up, I want to remind you that it's one thing to learn about how to untangle a midlife identity crisis. It's quite another thing to actually take the steps to do it. So I would love for you to leave a comment below and share which of these things I've talked about today most resonate with you, and maybe one thing you're willing to do to start moving your life forward into your next chapter. As a quick reminder, even though there are things we can do right away to start making a difference, the process of rediscovery and change is gradual, but it is also very empowering. Regardless of where you are or the roles that you have played up until now, this new chapter of midlife, maybe it's not new, maybe it's been going on for a while, but this season of midlife is a great opportunity to explore who you truly are. And the fun part is you now get to do it on your own terms. I'll talk to you later. Bye.